advocating for yourself is number one and making yourself your biggest priority. You should care about you more than anybody else cares about you.
AT&T and Aira presents Molly Burke.
I always want to prove, not to others, but to myself, that blindness has not stopped me from achieving the goals that I set up for myself.
Part of the hashtag Experience More campaign. experiencemore.att.com.
I believe you're only limited by what you tell yourself. You're only limited by your own thoughts and your own disbelief in yourself. It's an amazing thing that AT&T is doing and Aira, because it's not often that big commercial companies thinks about our community.
Brought to you by AT&T and Aira and produced by the Blind Abilities team. And now, here's your host, Pete Lane and Jeff Thompson. Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson.
And I'm Pete Lane. Today we're speaking with Molly Burke. Molly, welcome to Blind Abilities.
Thank you. Very excited to be chatting with you guys today.
Glad you could make it. It's our pleasure, believe me. Molly, you're such a public personality. Your story is so widely known. You have almost 200,000 YouTube followers, probably as many over on Facebook and Twitter. Can you review briefly what your story is, your lifetime, how you were diagnosed with your blindness, and then bring us up to the present day?
Absolutely. So when I was 4, I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. Essentially, that caused me to lose the majority of my vision when I was 14 and in grade 8. And that was very, very difficult time to be dealing with this, because I think that age is a really tough age for most people, just because you're dealing with puberty and hormones and discovering who you are and your own taste in clothes and music and all of these things. And all of a sudden, everything that I was discovering changed. And I ended up going from being a pretty, outgoing, bubbly, popular kid to losing all of my friends and struggling with really severe depression. So it was quite a journey. I honestly wouldn't change a thing, because it's led me to where I am today. And I'm really happy with where I am.
That's great. And your story involves some serious bullying, and you have a very heart-wrenching story about a particular episode where you were bullied in high school. Can you share that with our listeners?
So the year that I lost my vision, grade 8, adapting to navigating the world in a new way, I ended up down the stairs and really badly injuring my ankle and ended up having to use crutches. And so now I couldn't really use my cane very well. I couldn't use my guide dog, and I had to leave her home. And the school said that they would assign this group of girls to help me, help guide me around school. And one day at lunch, when they were supposed to take me to the cafeteria, instead, they decided to guide me into a forest. And once we got to the forest, they took my crutches and they started, rolling them in the mud, squishing bugs with them, getting them really dirty, and then ended up actually breaking one of them and leaving and going back to class without me. And I found myself, in this forest, couldn't see, couldn't stand on my ankle to walk. And I was completely isolated. So luckily I had my cell phone in my pocket. They had actually taken my backpack. So thankfully my cell phone was in my pocket that day. And I was able to call my mom, and she immediately came and got me. And I ended up deciding that day with my family to finish the rest of grade 8 from home, because it just didn't seem like a safe environment for me.
What a horrific experience.
Yeah.
And then you returned, as I understand it, you returned to another public school, or did you go to a blindness-related school then?
I went to the school for the blind for grade 9 and 10 to gain the skills that I needed. And then after that, I transitioned for grade 11 and 12 to a local high school that had almost 3,000 students. And I was the only blind one or only visually impaired one. Quite interesting. We really tried all the systems. I switched schools 5 times between bullying and looking for the best accessibility. Did the Catholic system, public system, private system, school for the blind. So we really tried them all.
Yeah, you did. Molly, you talked about depression and mental illness on one of your videos.
Yeah, I really struggled with mental illness when I was in grade 8, with depression and self-harm, suicidal ideation, and then later on in my journey, I went on to experience generalized anxiety and PTSD.
Molly, mental illness is not something a lot of people like to talk about, especially their own mental illness, but you seem to come right out and talk about it.
I'm just a really open person Some would say I don't have a filter. My friends can easily be embarrassed by me. And I'll say things and people are like surprised. And I'm like, oh, was that weird to say? Like, I just don't even know that there's things that people are uncomfortable talking about. Because to me, I'm just like, well, why not talk about it? Like, it's something I live with and other people live with it. 1 in 5 people have mental illness and 1 in 3 women have mental illness. So I'm like, why not talk about it? Like, what's so embarrassing? What's so uncomfortable? So, for me, I'm just an open book. I have no filter. I'm just very comfortable in talking about these things, and I don't see a reason in not being, because I think it's important.
Yes, it is.
Good for you. So Molly, you are a completely different person. Well, maybe you're not a different person, but that little girl who lacked confidence, who fell deeply into the depression and suffered from the bullying and whatnot, that does not seem to be your persona today. How do you think you overcame it? Or did you overcome it? And are we seeing the true Molly now?
There's things that blindness changed in me, and there's things that it could never take from me. I have always been a very bubbly, outgoing, high energy type of person, very friendly. I love meeting new people. I love going on adventures and trying new things. I love makeup and I love fashion and glitter and all these things. And, going blind, it temporarily pulled me down, but I don't think it could take away who I am. I always tell people, especially people who are newly diagnosed and facing the vision loss ahead of them, is blindness doesn't change who you are, it just changes how you do some things. A lot of people, especially on my YouTube videos where I talk about makeup and fashion, are really confused that how I love something that's seen as such a visual thing as a blind person. And I'm like, because it's who I am. This is who I would be if I was still sighted. So it's who I am now. It's not going to change me. It's just going to, maybe temporarily pull me down, but you have to find a way to rise above those challenges, because the reality is, if you can't change something in your life the way I can't change that I'm blind, your only option is to accept it and move on. Living can't be done when you're wallowing and you're depressed and you're living with regret and anger. You can't live life that way. So I wanted to live. I wanted to be myself and to move on and find passion and happiness. And it was a long journey. There's no quick, easy fix. There's no magic button to push and be recovered. Recovery is a journey and it's ongoing. And there's so many things that contributed to my healing. But I think at the end of the day, I am who I am. And blindness it tried to hold me back for a little bit, but I was going to beat it.
And it looks like you did a really great job. Now, Molly, you talked about glitter. Glitter's good. Makeup. Makeup is always an interesting topic from a blindness perspective. Can you give us a little bit of Molly perspective on makeup?
Yeah, I love makeup. I love fashion. So as soon as I started kind of wanting to get into wearing makeup, my mom took me to a MAC cosmetics store and had them pick out all the right colors and products for me and teach me what goes where. From then on, I was 12 years old at the time, and it's just been a love ever since. I have a disgusting amount of makeup at this point, really. Now I pick out most of my own products. I still have somebody at the store help pick out foundation and concealer shades to make sure that I'm matched correctly. But other than that, I'll buy my own eyeshadows. I research online. I watch reviews on YouTube and listen to what the girls have to say before I make my decisions on which colors I should buy of lipstick or what products I should try. I've kind of developed my own way of putting on makeup, and I think a lot of blind girls figure out their own different techniques that work, but I've figured out my way, and it's not foolproof. I still sometimes end up with eyeshadow fallout under my eyes or mascara blobs on my nose, but my mom helps with that, which is great. Yeah, I mean, makeup is like art to me. It's art that I can put on my face. It's accessible art because I don't have to see the canvas. I can feel my face, and that's my canvas.
There you go. Well, tell us some of the mechanics. I think our listeners would very much be interested in how you apply the makeup. How do you coordinate the colors, not only of the makeup, but of the clothes and things like that? Do you have particular techniques or tricks that you use?
So for my makeup, anything like eyeshadows, if I have multiple eyeshadows that are the exact same container, I braille label them so I know which is which. And so that's how I pick. And then in terms of like actually matching like my blush, my eyeshadow, my lipstick, making sure tone wise they all coordinate, that's where like watching the reviews to hear when people are like, oh, like Sable eyeshadow from MAC is a brown with plum undertones, so it's cool toned. And then Mulch by MAC is the exact same color brown, but it's red undertones, so it's warm. And so then I know, okay, I'm going to pick up Sable today because I want to go for a cool tone look. And then I pick up a cool toned blush that I know is cool toned, and I continue to like build like that for a look. So I guess I kind of combine watching a lot of reviews and reading a lot of blog posts about different makeup products, braille labeling things, and always like my entire makeup collection is organized. Everything sits in the same spot in the case all the time. I never move anything. When I pick it up, it goes right back to the same spot. And then just combining my knowledge and understanding of makeup, what looks good, what doesn't, what colors go together, what doesn't. And it's the same for fashion. I don't label any of my clothes, but what I do is when I buy new clothes, I memorize something that's defining about that piece. So with jeans, I might memorize the pattern of the stitching on the back pockets and know that that pattern means they're my dark wash skinny jeans. Or I might know that the ones with the rips on the knees are my light wash skinny jeans, that kind of thing. And then again, just based on my knowledge and understanding of fashion and trends, I'm able to pull pieces from my wardrobe based on the tactile feedback they give me and memorization.
I see it's more than just green, red, yellow, blue then.
Yes, I have a stupid amount of clothes and makeup. Such a girl. I'll go shopping any day I can. And so it's a lot of clothes to sort through to find outfits, but I love it.
Well, you seem to have your system down. Molly, can you tell us a little bit about your hosting career up there at AMI on television?
Yeah, I used to host 2 of their television shows. I hosted AMI This Week and ATW Weekend Edition. I left hosting back at the end of March, but they didn't make any kind of official announcement. So people will still tweet me and be like, when are you going to be on the show again? I'm like, I'm not. But like, I'll always step in if they need me, if they need somebody to step in hosting. But my schedule was just getting way too busy with speaking and YouTube and the show. You know, the show was 2 full days of my week. And for all of January, February, and March, I was working 7 days a week with no days off for 3 months straight. And I, as a result, was like extremely sick and could not get better. Like whatever we did, I couldn't get healthy because I continued to work 7 days a week and not giving myself any rest. So I knew that something in my schedule had to give. And unfortunately, because AMI was taking up 2 full days, I felt like that was the thing that needed to give. So I'm not hosting for them anymore, but as I mentioned, if they ever need me, they know I will step in. And I really loved working with them. They were great. And, I'm happy that now my career is going well and I can help provide a job for another blind person to take that position. I don't want to hog all the jobs. Obviously, there's not that many. There's unfortunately a lot of blind people unemployed. So if somebody else can take that position, I'm happy that they have it.
Great. Your public speaking, how often do you speak and what types of messages do you convey?
It totally depends on the month. There's really, really busy months and there's really quiet months. There's really, when it rains, it pours, and then there's a drought. That tends to be how it goes in this industry. I speak at all sorts of different events. I speak to a lot of middle schools, high schools, universities, corporate conferences and events, leadership stuff, diversity conferences. And I speak a lot. I basically use my story to send different messages. So it depends what the event is about, what my client wants the audience to take away from it. I can use my story and create a message of overcoming obstacles or accepting yourself or believing in yourself or finding support, reaching out for help, whatever the event is about and what they want from me. I can just take my story and pull certain messages or certain themes out of it. But one thing that's definitely a huge part of my story in every presentation I give is the idea of hope. We all have hope inside of us, and no matter how dark your situation feels, you can find that hope. And I know when you have nothing else, hope can get you through, because it has for me on multiple occasions. And, there's things that helped on my journey, like seeking therapy and working on my nutrition and physical health through fitness and spirituality, and all of these things helped me. But when I had nothing, hope was it. That was it. And so I really want to share that, because that's something that anybody, anywhere, in any background can find in themselves, is the hope. hope to carry on.
That's great. Now, Molly, you are a guide dog user as well.
I am. I've been a guide dog user for more than 10 years, which is so crazy.
10 years.
10 years.
Wow.
I know.
Does this dog still weigh more than you?
He does. He's a very big man. He's half Bernese Mountain Dog, so I promise he's not fat. He's actually very fit and very slim, but he's just a very massive dog.
This is Gallop, right?
Yeah, Gallop like a horse. His head's so ridiculously big. Like people, everywhere we go, people will be like, wow, that's a horse, not a dog. And I'm like, his name is Gallop. So yes, he is my horse. And I always wanted a guide horse, a miniature guide horse when I was growing up because I thought that was so cool. And so when I got Gallop, my parents were like, be careful what you wish for guide horse.
And you're so tiny, that probably amplifies the size of Gallop, right?
Yeah, I'm tiny. I'm 4'10.5". I'm the size of the average Canadian 11-year-old.
Molly, can you tell the listeners, probably a lot of people out there who are cane users and good cane users, but they're always questioning that idea about getting a guide dog. What process did you go through and what advice would you have for someone?
Getting a guide dog was my entire motivation to become a good cane user. As soon as I started taking O&M, I was about 8 years old when I started doing O&M, 7 or 8, and was a full-time cane user like a year later. The only way they could get me to commit to taking O&M lessons and working hard at using my cane was to tell me that, you could get a guide dog as young as 13. And I was like, all right, you've planted that seed. I'm getting a dog at 13. And I did. That was my whole motivation. So I went to the Mira Foundation, which at the time was the only school training guide dogs for children. It was more of an intensive application process through Mira than it is through most schools because they're giving dogs to children. They really need to make sure that you're O&M, on point, that you're very good, that your auditory skills are there, that you're mature, you're independent, your lifestyle suits it. So I went through a big process with them of kind of different evaluations and whatnot up at the school. And then at the end of kind of 4-day evaluation, they told me that I was approved to go back in July and get my first dog. And so I did. And what I love about Mira is they don't pre-match, which I believe they're the only guide dog school I've ever heard of that does not pre-match. So I actually got to be a part of the decision process of picking both of my dogs, which I loved.
Oh, that's quite different. Yeah, that is quite different.
Yeah, so with Gypsy, my first dog, I worked with 3 different dogs before I decided on Gypsy. And with Gallop, I worked with 5 different dogs before I decided on Gallop.
Really? Wow.
And at any point, you can switch. So with Gallop, when I went to get Gallop, I had actually originally picked a dog who I called Milo. And Milo wasn't working out after about 2 days, so we switched and I took Gallop.
Molly, I've heard you say your height. You're 4'10.5", and that half inch does matter. And now, especially when you got the dog the size of Gallop.
He is a big guy, and a lot of people can't believe that they gave such a small girl a big dog. But I mean, I really don't think it's just about like our height matching up. There's so much that goes into the perfect match. It's personality, it's lifestyle, it's walking speed, it's temperament. All of these things play such a huge role, far more than his height versus my height. It just means I have a short harness handle. And I actually love it because when I walk with him, most guide dog users, when they're holding the handle and they're walking, there's a gap between the dog's back and where they're holding the handle. My hand actually just rests on Gallop's back while we walk.
Oh, wow.
Which also means that if he's not on harness, but I put my hand on the part of his back where his harness lays, he'll guide me.
Oh, cool.
Because he knows the sensation of me resting my hand there means I need him to help me. Yeah, I think it's the perfect match. And I would never want a small dog. I see some of my friends with like these tiny Labradors as guide dogs. And I'm like, oh my God, I could never, because both my dogs, Gallop's half Bernese Mountain Dog, half Black Lab, and Gypsy was 3/4 Bernese Mountain Dog, 1/4 Lab. So she was also very big. And so that's what I'm used to now. And I feel very safe as like a petite woman living, and traveling in cities. I like feeling so safe with my big dog.
And I would imagine that personality and temperament was absolutely critical because your lifestyle involves constant traveling, right? And constant public speaking and being in large crowds. And I would think that being a calm, moderate kind of a personality would be very important for a dog.
Exactly what they looked for. They knew like my life is crazy. And so they really looked for a dog that's up for anything, super easygoing, very calm, very gentle. And because of my personality, I need a dog that's going to respond to correction really easily because I'm really soft on the dogs. I'm really, I'm a very gentle, loving person, and I needed a dog that was like very snuggly and very loving and really sweet. And that's exactly what they found. Like, he's a giant, he's a huge black dog that looks scary, but oh my God, he doesn't bark. He doesn't jump. His paws have never left the ground. I've had him for over 3 years. Great. He doesn't bark. He doesn't jump. He just wants to sleep and snuggle all the time. He is cool with every situation I've thrown him into. He literally, anything I put him in, he just falls asleep. He just is like, ugh, okay, Mom, wake me when you need me. Like, he's just so chill. They totally nailed the personality for what my life needs.
I've seen some videos in the recent weeks and months of how you handle your dog while traveling, while flying on a plane, constant traveling, and everything from how do you handle the dog poop to how do you prepare your dog for long flights and things like that. Is that kind of a new experience for you, the constant traveling?
No, I've been traveling like this for about 5 years now, so I'm very used to it. And Gallup, it's really all he's known with me from the time I got him 3 years ago. This has been his life, but I really started wanting to share that with people more. Videos like how I pick up my dog's poop is something I never thought I'd make, but
Right.
so many people ask, so many people are curious, and they know that I'm a very honest, open book, and I'm a safe person to ask. And so I always kind of feel like I might be the only blind person that they ever meet or that's ever going to be willing to answer this for them. And so I'm going to do it because I would rather people know the facts than assume and be wrong.
And that's really great because my wife has a guide dog and I experience the airports all the time. For students, let's say high school students who are faced with the challenges of vision loss, transitioning to college or transitioning to the workplace, what advice would you have for them?
Well, I never went to college or university. I transitioned straight to the workplace. When I was 18, I moved out on my own into downtown Toronto, got my own apartment with Gypsy, my guide dog, and started work as a motivational speaker traveling the world. So my experience is kind of unique because my job is very unique. I think advocating for yourself is number one, and making yourself your biggest priority. You should care about you more than anybody else cares about you. And you should know what you need better than anybody else knows what you need. You need to speak up for yourself. You need to advocate, and you need to be good to yourself and do what you need to be healthy and safe and successful.
Now, getting your own place. Now, that's a big step for even people who are going to college or university, but going to the workplace or breaking away from their home. What was it like when you first got your own place?
I'm very much a dive in deep person. I don't kind of halfway anything. I decided that in 10 days I want to run a 5K marathon, and I don't run. So in 10 days we'll be running. But that's kind of my personality. I want to do something and I jump right into it. So yeah, for me at 18, I'd be 4 years after most of my vision loss occurred. I was like, why not get a bachelorette pad downtown Toronto in a big city and move out on my own with my dog and start a brand new hectic career? That sounds really fun. Now I'm actually getting an apartment in Los Angeles in West Hollywood, and I'm going to be moving from Toronto all the way 6-hour flight away from any family and living out there on my own. So
And your folks are going to stay in Toronto?
they will, yeah. My mom will probably come out for the first month or so to help me settle in and get, do some O&M, get some safe walking routes, find my different places that I need around me. And then my mom and dad will just go back and forth to visit me. But yeah, I'll be living out in LA on my own.
So, Molly, I'm from Minnesota, so when you're in Los Angeles and get settled in there, I'll send you down some snow this winter.
No thanks. That's why I'm leaving. I don't need any snow. I've had 23 years of it.
What are you going to do in LA?
I figured my job can be done from anywhere in the world, so why not do it from the city I've always dreamed of living in? I told my parents when I was 5 years old I was going to live in LA, and it took me 18 years, but I'm doing it. I'm the type of person, I always want to prove, not to others, but to myself, that blindness has not stopped me from achieving the goals that I set up for myself. That 5-year-old Molly, she needs to achieve this dream. She needs to do it. And so I'm doing it. I'm just going to go. I'm diving in. Hopefully going to be out there by December, January.
Fantastic.
Molly, Pete gave me a call and said, hey, I think Molly Burke's on a Dove commercial.
Yes.
I think Dove asked me to try out this body wash because I'm so in tune with my hands and how things feel to me. I really navigate the world by touch. When I pumped it out, I was like, oh, now this is different. The foam was really light, fluffy, weightless, and it feels really moisturizing, not sticky. I've never tried anything like this as a body wash before.
How about that? Yeah.
That was an amazing experience. It's actually so funny. My aunt was just telling me that she somehow, because I don't know if you guys have seen kind of some controversy about the Dove ad right now.
No.
The new Dove ad, not mine, but their newest one. It's silly, but people are freaking out about it. And so my aunt was reading kind of people's opinions, and then somebody brought up did anybody see how Dove was like taking advantage of the blind community and disabled people by using this poor blind girl in their ad? And there was like 100 comments of people being like, I know, the poor girl. And then somebody commented, was like, for those who might not know, Molly Burke is a very successful motivational speaker and YouTuber, and if she's in this commercial, I assure you, she willingly chose to do it.
She is not being taken advantage of. That's correct.
She's not being taken advantage of. I'm like, do people realize I was paid? Like this was work. I was paid. I auditioned. I did 5 auditions, signed a lot of contracts, did 3 13-hour filming days, and got paid for my work. Like I wasn't being taken advantage of. This was a part of my job.
That doesn't sound like a poor blind girl.
Right? Like, I'm like, it was so funny to me that anybody would even think that.
You go, girl. That's right.
And we need more representation of disability by people who are actually disabled. You know, the few disabled characters you'll see on TV from now and then have traditionally been played by able-bodied actors, and therefore promoting the stereotypes and misconceptions and perpetuating those. And now, finally, in the past few years, we're starting to see a little bit of a shift in seeing more disabled people being portrayed on television and being played by disabled people, which is great.
Now, are you thinking that maybe some of that might come your way while you're in LA?
I mean, I would love it to. I took acting classes for 10 years. I took stage performance and improv for 10 years from 5 to 15, and did a little bit of television acting courses in between there as well. So acting has always been like a love of mine, and so I would never say no. I mean, I work in the entertainment industry now. I perform in front of a camera and videos get posted online, and I perform on stages as a speaker. So I would like to think that maybe I'd get to be able to do the more traditional media.
Yeah, well, good luck on that. That's the place to do it. That is definitely the place to do it.
For sure.
Molly, it just seems like your lifestyle fits the hashtag experience more.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly how I like to live. Do what I can't, you know? Do what everybody has ever told me I can't do.
AT&T and Aira have joined together as partners to promote the hashtag Experience More campaign. And as you know, Molly, this interview is being brought to everyone by AT&T, Experience More, and Aira. So what's your concept? What's your feelings about the principle of Experience More? Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first off, I want to say I think it's an amazing thing that AT&T is doing, and Aira, because it's not often that big commercial companies like an AT&T thinks about our community. I think it's amazing that they're doing that, and I'm honored to get to be a part of this campaign and work with them. I think it's important for everybody, blind or not, to experience more, but I think, unfortunately, oftentimes blind people do feel like they are limited. I believe you're only limited by what you tell yourself. You're only limited by your own thoughts and your own disbelief in yourself. But if you believe in yourself and you want to do it, you can go out there and do it. You can experience it all.
That's well put. Very well
Absolutely. Well, and AT&T and Aira are joining together, and they're visiting a number of cities across the United States to talk about their Experience More campaign and their products and the accessibility of those products. So you can check on the website, which is experiencemore.att.com, and you'll find a schedule of those cities and when they'll be there and what personalities they'll be bringing along. So be sure to go to that website and check it out.
Definitely worth attending if you can, I think.
You can find that link in the show notes, as well as the one Molly's going to tell us right now on where to find her YouTube videos.
Yes, you can check out my YouTube videos at youtube.com/Molly Burke Official, or just search Molly Burke on YouTube in the search bar. That's just MOLLYBURKE Official, and there's over 200 videos, so lots of binge watching if you're ever bored.
Yes, and you have the choice to select between videos, favorites, and channels. And I went right to the channel, and you have your own channel with, as I said earlier, almost 200,000 followers. I have a question, Molly. Do you know the composition of your following on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter? Are they predominantly sighted folks, do you know, or predominantly blind viewers? What would you think?
Unfortunately, it doesn't give you a breakdown in analytics of that, but I do know I have a very strong following of blind, visually impaired people or their friends and family members, parents of babies who have been diagnosed, that kind of thing. I have a lot of teachers, doctors, nurses. I have a lot of people within the disability community in general, a lot of mental health people, a lot of people with mental illness follow me. But then I also just have a lot of people in general who want to learn, who want to be open-minded, who have always been curious about blindness. I'm their token blind person here to answer all the questions. It's really a huge mix of people that follow me, and that's what I think is so cool. I think a lot of people with their YouTube channels can get boxed in to being a beauty channel and ages 13 to 24 females watch them. Whereas with me, when you look at my analytics, it's so diverse. The age groups, the gender breakdown, everything is really wide. So I like being able to build a really open community of an assorted group of people.
Molly, there's one video I remember I watched, and this was a while ago, and it was really, really cool. There was a person that took your sounds of your Braille typing and all that stuff and made it into a song.
Yes, amazing. He's so talented. His name is Andrew Huang, and he is a musician. He makes YouTube videos where he makes music out of everyday objects. We teamed up together back around Christmas time and basically made music out of different accessibility products for the blind, like my guide dog's harness, a brailer, a liquid level indicator, and some other things.
I think that I could probably take that tone and pitch shift it much further down. Probably could use it in a few different notes and create the melody out of that.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed. I'll let him know. He's very talented.
I also saw a recent YouTube video where you met with two blind brothers from New York City.
Yes, yeah, AT&T was able to help me meet up with Brian and Bradford in New York City, who are the co-founders of Two Blind Brothers clothing line. You might have seen them on The Ellen Show, and what they're doing is super amazing. They work with AT&T as well on the Experience More campaign, and I was so excited to get to meet them. They're super cool guys, and what they're doing is really, really important and really unique. So it was pretty fun hanging out with them.
That must have been a surprise because you're a fanatic over the Ellen Show.
I am a fanatic. I love Ellen so much. She is like my idol and has been for like 10 years now. So I was a little bit jealous that they got to meet her. What they're doing definitely deserved the shout out.
Hello, you guys. I am here in New York City at the Two Blind Brothers headquarters with Brian and Bradford, or Brad for short. And I want you guys to kind of give like a brief synopsis of your story. And me telling somebody to be brief is kind of like, you know, a little hypocritical because my brief is 20 minutes.
Basically, Brian and I are brothers. We're about 6 years apart. We were diagnosed with this eye disease when about a year and a half ago, we wanted to do something charitable for the research related to these eye conditions. Part-time, we started a small clothing company called Two Blind Brothers. And the story behind that is Brian and I were shopping for a shirt here in Bloomingdale's, New York City. We accidentally walked out with the same exact shirt. And the reason is because when we go shopping, if you're blind or visually impaired, you focus so much on touch. So
everything. I'm walking around feeling everything, like the 5-year-old in the store, knocking stuff over, touching everything.
You know what's so funny?
The hands of the eyes.
Every time I mention that story to somebody and you feel everything, everybody does this as a pantomime. I'm not sure. I guess it's like the universal sign for just touching everything.
Wait, waving hands?
Yeah, just like
I'm
waving
guessing
hands.
what I was just doing?
Yeah.
touching.
Well, right after that show, which I had seen, I went to their website to check them out. We were going to contact them, reach out and see if we could set up a podcast with them. And their website had crashed. Not 10 minutes after the show on the appearance on.
I'm not surprised. Well, you should definitely reach out to them and get them on the podcast. I can connect you if you'd like.
Appreciate that. I think we'll take you up on that. And their company was formed to make clothes that are sensitive to the touch, to feel. They're made especially comfortable tactilely, because they're made from soft materials and things like that. But also the proceeds go towards the funding of Stargardt's research, which I thought was really cool.
100% of the proceeds go towards funding research for cures. And all of their clothes actually have Braille tags on them, so you can read the Braille on them, which is kind of cool. And actually, a lot of the pieces are even made by blind people.
Yeah, the Dallas Lighthouse down there in Texas, where 70% of the employers working on the material are visually impaired. Great stuff. Now, Molly, you're talking about hookups, and we were thinking, what about this singer named Ed?
Oh my God, I would die if I could get Ed Sheeran.
Oh, yeah.
Him and Ellen, you're bringing up like my two favorite people in the world. Those are my people.
Well, we could do a 4-way, 5-way conversation with them.
Yeah, if we ever get Ed on here, we'll give you a jingle.
Yeah, seriously, call me up.
Molly, thanks so much for joining us today. Jeff, did you have anything additional to ask Molly?
Sure. First of all, Molly, thanks a lot for taking the time to come on the Blind Abilities and sharing your story with our listeners, being part of the Experience More campaign. And is there any message that you would like someone to take away from this podcast?
To just believe in yourself and to know that going blind isn't the end of the world. It's just the start of a new chapter. And there's amazing companies out there doing amazing things for our community, like AT&T and Aira. So definitely go out, check out what they're doing, and head over to my YouTube channel. There's a lot of educational videos, a lot of resources, a lot of support you can find over there. So hopefully something there helps. Hopefully something I've said here in this interview helps. I'm always here for you. So if you need somebody, hit me up.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate that. I'll vouch for that. There are so many interesting YouTube videos. And you have your own website as well, which I believe is Molly Burke Official.
MollyBurkeOfficial.com. That's right.
There you go. Well, Molly, please come back and chat with us again, particularly after you land those acting roles when you move to LA, okay?
Will do.
Thanks again, Molly. Appreciate you talking to us.
It was a real pleasure to talk to Molly Burke, and be sure to check her out on the web at mollyburkeofficial.com. And this has been brought to you by AT&T and Aira. Hashtag Experience More. Check them out on the web at experiencemore.att.com, and check out Aira at AIRA.io. And a big shout out to Chi Chow for his beautiful music used in this production. And you can find him on Twitter at El Chichao. This has been a Blind Abilities production. Thanks for listening.
When we share
what we see through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the reality
of blind abilities. The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.